Guys, this is a highly anticipated video for a lot of you out there. Everybody's been asking me to do a Daniel Defense review, do a Daniel Defense torture chest, so here it is. We finally got our hands on one, so stay tuned. We're gonna dive into it. This is the Daniel Defense DDM4V7. Ours is a 16-inch barrel, full-length handguard, and it is pretty much exactly how it comes out of the box, except for the hollow sun. Some of the stuff you're going to get on your rifle right out of the box, full ambidextrous safety, mil-spec trigger. It's their proprietary furniture. They have their proprietary charging handle, and they have their proprietary dust cover. Also, we move up the rail. This is one of their new rails. MFR 15, and their Daniel Defense vertical grip on that guy. It does have QD slots on the rail in multiple places, but you have to move this little QD slot around, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. It'll also come with their Daniel Defense suppressor mount flash hider. It's got a little groove in there for the legacy style suppressors. But they did use a crush washer, so we'll also get into that a little bit later too. This is pretty much how you're going to get your Daniel Defense right out of the box. Pretty much ready to go. Everything you need on it. None of the stuff you don't. And speaking of out of the box, let's talk about some of the things you're going to get in the box. In the box, you're going to get a bag. It's got your manual, operator safety, all that stuff. It's got a decal. It's got a extra thick butt pad if you're into that kind of thing. And then they have their own proprietary magazine too. It's a 32 round magazine. The type of polymer feels kind of like a Magpul, and the writing on the side of it looks kind of like Magpul writing too. So I'd be kind of curious who makes their mags. Now the texture here feels kind of like a hex mag, so it's kind of interesting. 32 rounds instead of 30. It's got that little base plate thing on there. Not really sure what that's for. Maybe just aesthetics. Maybe you could put it on your belt. Slide it. No, it's not for that. But yeah, kind of cool. They give you their own kind of mag with it. So, all right. So let's talk about some of the things that I like and some of the things that I don't like. Start at the back here. Their furniture is all right. It's got these little rubber pads on it. Kind of makes no difference to me whether they're there or not. The flat spot on the bottom could be nice for putting on a bag. The lockup is maybe a little bit tighter than a standard MOE Magpul. It's all right. The stock isn't anything super special, but it's not terrible. Just leave it on there, run it. If you don't like it, put a CTR in it. Who cares? The buffer tube, they decided to go with a standard mil-spec buffer tube. I know this is kind of like one of their mid-tier rifles. I don't, do they have like a base, mid-tier, high? I mean, their pro, I guess, would be their high, but it would be nice to see maybe a nicer buffer tube, maybe something of their own design. Either way, it works. It's a buffer tube, 6 position. Moving forward, it has a QD plate, steel QD plate. It looks like it may be a little flexed out from the receiver. I don't know if that's due to design or what, but I like steel QD plates. They hold up. I'll be curious to see if you put a sling in that with use, if that actually bends that out at all. Being as I can already kind of see daylight in between there. Single stake. Nothing to complain about there. Looks like a good steak. All right, their proprietary charging handle. Now their charging handle isn't terrible. It's not anything super great. It is ambidextrous. It works. It latches. It stays latched. Not much more to say about that. When we do the torture test, we'll kind of find out if this thing is any better than any of the rest on the market. Standard forward assist. This is a standard mil-spec upper receiver. There is nothing special about this upper receiver. It is actually even Splinter A stamped. I'm sure they do all their own machining. Polymer dust cover. It does say Daniel Defense on it. It's kind of nice. I don't really have any gripes there. I've used polymer dust covers in the past. They're okay, and this one works, so that's good. The lower receiver, we've got their proprietary grip. And I have mixed feelings about this. You can see on the bottom here, this is a one-piece trigger guard that goes into the grip. On a mil-spec lower receiver, that's fine. On any kind of other receiver, hopefully they make a different grip. I'm sure they do. But that's kind of an interesting design. I don't think I've ever seen anybody else do that. This little cutout here for your finger feels really nice. The texture on this is pretty decent. I'm kind of near here or there with it. I don't really care one way or the other. I do like that cutout. I do like this little kick out on the bottom. I can't see myself buying this grip for other rifles, but it is nice feeling. The safety on this is a mil-spec style ambidextrous. So it looks like your standard mil-spec safety on this side, and then on the right hand side it's got a little screw that holds that guy in there. I actually really hate this safety. This safety really bothers me. I would like to see this lever a little bit shorter. When your hand's here, it's kind of dumb. It's kind of a dumb gripe, but it touches my hand and it irritates the crap out of me. So not a big fan of that, but that's what it is. Standard magazine release, single-sided, non-ambi, in a standard mil-spec lower receiver. Moving on from there, our handguard. This is their MFR 15, or as some people call it, the MFer. It's a nice handguard. It's nice and lightweight. This whole rifle is actually really lightweight for being a 16-inch, full-size rifle. This is really lightweight. And I think a lot of that has to do with this handguard. Everybody says that the Daniel Defense handguards are really strong. They stay consistent. It seems like a really nice handguard. The only thing I will say is, even though it has these QD spots in it, you have to move this little plate around. This guy right here. So if you want to use a QD spot like this guy right there, you have to unscrew this, move this up here to this M-lock spot, and put this little plate here. So if you're a person that likes to run your sling, maybe in the back of the rail and the back of the receiver, and then maybe you want to change that up and you want to run it on the front and the stock, or vice versa, on the stock and here, whatever it may be, just know you're gonna have to change this guy out in order to do that, in order to move it wherever you want. So it's kind of a set it and forget it type of thing, being as these are not normal QD spots. The vertical grip on this. The vertical grip, again, has their rubberized texture on it. On the front, it has texturing kind of like a old school M16 A2, A4, like the back of the grip. It's kind of like what that feels like. It's okay. It's not bad. It's really long. I guess if you really wanted to hold on to that thing, it's definitely long enough. I'm more of a C-clamp style. I don't really get down with that, but hey, it's there if you need it. The barrel on this guy, the barrel on this is a cold hammer forged. It's, I believe, Parkerized. It looks Parkerized at least. It might be nitrated, but it looks Parkerized at least. Standard gas block. It is pinned. I don't know if you can see that in there, the right angle, but it is pinned in place. There's pros and cons with that. You're never gonna have your gas block screws loosen up and have your gas block shoot off the end of your barrel. or have a failure of some kind because your gas block came loose. I've personally never had that happen. I've had actually the opposite, where you shoot so many dang rounds and you get the barrel so stinking hot that the gas block screws don't want to come out, and then you end up breaking Allen wrenches. But that's kind of one of those mill contract things. You see that a lot with guns that are mill contract, and Daniel Defense is known for having those mill contracts out there, so that kind of makes sense. And then the last thing, their muzzle device. Now it is a suppressor mount. That's what they say on their website. Now, typically speaking, with suppressor mounts, you never run a crush washer unless it's some sort of precision crush washer. And that is because when you're tightening it, you can't guarantee that the shoulder of the barrel and the suppressor mount itself stays concentric. It may torque to one side or the other side more, and then your suppressor is angled and you're shooting a hole at the end of it. That's not supposed to be there. So it's kind of interesting that they decided to go with that route. Not entirely surprising, being as there's some other things on here that don't make a lot of sense for a $2,000 rifle, and that is what we're going to get into next. All right, guys, now this is a $2,000 rifle. This, on their website, I believe is $1,968 or somewhere in there, last time I checked. For that $2,000 price range, what you should expect for $2,000 is a high quality rifle. There's a ton of rifles out there for $1,000 or less. Now, there's something to be said for higher end rifles, the quality QC, the parts that they manufacture in-house, the parts that they source to build their rifles with, and then the processes in which they build their rifles. And some of these higher end manufacturers may be better. That being said, for $2,000, twice the price of what a lot of people would consider an entry-level rifle, somewhere between $650 and $1,000 is like a quality entry-level rifle that you'll be able to put thousands of rounds down through and get lots of good training in. This is twice the price of that. This is nearly $2,000. You should expect a higher level of build quality for twice the price. Now, there's some rifles out there that are $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. I mean, you can go as high as you want. I've seen them upwards of $9,000. But for this rifle specifically, being around that $2,000 mark, there's other companies out there. Aero Precision has just come out with a new Pro line around $2,000. Sons of Liberty Gunworks, you can find their stuff. They have a M4 around the $2,000 mark. ADM UIC Mod 2. It's also an extremely nice rifle, and it's like $230 more-ish, somewhere around there, than this rifle. So some of the things that I don't like about this, that I don't think put it into that kind of mid-tier. It's not budget starting, but it's not high-end. That kind of mid-tier for $2,000. I hate the safety. We went over this earlier. If you look it up, it's a Schmid safety. They're $25. I would really like to see somebody else's safety in this, or Daniel Defense's proprietary design. That's a little bit better. Something that's ambi, just not this. This is sloppy. It's not that tactile, and it gets in the way. Like I said, I mean, if I'm going to keep this rifle how it is, I'm going to swap this thing out immediately. I hate it. The trigger in this is also a Schmid. Now, don't get me wrong. I have Schmids in a lot of guns, just not this Schmid. There's different types. This is the cheapest Schmid you can buy. They make triggers for a lot of companies out there. You'd be surprised how many companies they make triggers for. This is a $25 trigger. I want to see something better. I want to see a Geisley in this. You know, that's what most people swap them out for anyways. I want to see a mid-tier class trigger in this. I mean, a Trigger Tech, a CMC as a budget class trigger that's better than this. I've had nickel boron mil-spec triggers that feel better than this. This trigger is weighing in at 9.5 pounds with the world's longest freaking reset. Just to show you guys, here's the pull.
That is one big pile of shit.
That is a $25, 9.5 pound trigger in your $2,000 gun. That's ridiculous. Now, I mentioned the buffer tube earlier. Not that big of a deal. It works. It's going to continue to work. It'll work fine. It has a H1 buffer in it, which people will say, depending on how you port your barrel, how much gas you have coming back in the system, you could even do a carbine. Preferably, I would like to see an H2 in there. I've seen a lot of good results running an H2. If you were to go to put a suppressor on here, an H2 is going to be a better fit for you. It's going to help slow your bolt velocities. I'm sure they're a couple dollars more, and that's probably why they didn't put it in there. Moving forward, the handguard. The handguard is nice. I like the handguard. The one problem that I do have with it is there's a big gap between the handguard and the receiver. There's about a 16-inch gap, 16-inch gap. I'll put a picture up here so you can see that a little clearer. I know that's kind of nitpicky, but here's the thing. I've had $100 handguards that don't have a gap. And the fact that this is like a $300+ handguard, $400 handguard, somewhere in there, and I can see half my damn vehicle through the gap between the receiver and the handguard it's just kind of annoying, man. Like, I don't feel like I bought a $2,000 rifle. I feel like I bought an $800 rifle. So it's just little things like that, and they add up. I'm not a huge fan of having to move this around when I want to move my sling around. If they gave me a couple of these out of the box, that would be nice. Then I could put one here, and I could put one up here, or you could put one here and here, whatever you want to do with it. I don't like having to do extra steps just to put a sling on my rifle when other companies offer handguards that you can just pop a sling into. And then the last thing I want to touch on here, I know we're griping quite a bit, but I did spend $2,000 on this, and that's not a small amount of money. The quality control on the rifle is less than impressive. On the gas block where they pinned it, where they drilled the hole and they jammed a pin through it, there's a piece of metal sticking out from that. They never deburred it. It looks like they just drilled it and then jammed a pin in it and never looked at it, because there is shiny metal sticking out from the backside of this pin, which looks terrible. I mean, it looks awful. And I know if you're going to use your rifle, you're going to use your rifle, and I intend to use the crap out of this rifle, but I would expect that on a Bear Creek. I would expect that on an Anderson, a PSA maybe even. I mean, I've owned a lot of PSAs, and their quality is usually on par for what you're paying for, you know? So some of the other things, the slower receiver, the safety right here, right by where your safety stops are, both of these, it may be hard to see in the camera, both of these are rounded off. Whoever was blending this lower receiver just blended it a little too much. They sanded it a little too much. Whatever they did, they took the edges off of those. It just looks like shit. It doesn't affect anything. It just looks like shit. And that's one of those quality issues that you would expect wouldn't be there on a mid-tier rifle. That's a quality issue you would expect buying an Anderson or buying a Bear Creek or buying a PSA, a budget tier rifle. You know, if this was a $25 lower receiver, a Blim even, sure, whatever, that's what you paid for. But if you split this rifle in two, $2,000, $1,000 for the lower, $1,000 for upper. I know that's not what they go for, but I'm just saying that doesn't show $1,000 worth of quality, having things like this. Now the other thing, and I went to grease the trigger in this, and I accidentally let the hammer fly forward. I was kind of recocking and uncocking the trigger to get that grease moving around, and it slipped out of my thumb and it smashed into the bolt drop lever. And unfortunately, it freaking snapped off my bolt drop lever, and I'll show you pictures of that. We'll talk about that later too. I'll show you right after it happens. And so I reached out to them, and they since sent me a mil spec bolt drop lever. It usually comes with their fancy injection metal bolt drop lever, which I actually really liked. It was larger than normal. It offered something better than mil spec, which seems like that's what you're getting, is mostly mil spec. So they sent me out a mil spec one, which is fine. They work fine. I've run them for many years, but that was a little disappointing. I had 15 rounds out of the rifle, and bolt drop lever sheared off due to a minor mistake. That being said, there are some things I do like about this rifle. So let's talk about some of the things that I do like about this rifle. I do like the fact that we're about 300 rounds in so far, and I haven't had a single malfunction. I do like this grip, even though it's kind of funky. It feels good. It feels really good in the hand. What? So far, don't have a problem with this charging handle. It feels good. I don't really see a reason to change it out unless you want something more aggressive. It seems to get all right accuracy. It's not bad. I do like the handguard despite the gap and despite the having to move the QD sockets around. It's a really nice feeling handguard. It feels really great C-clamping it. I like how many M-lock slots are on it. It gives you great modularity for me to mount everything. There's flat spots everywhere. I think design-wise, the handguard is really nice. And I'm hoping that the more we shoot this thing, the more rounds we put down range, the more time we have behind this, the more things that I will begin to like. I know for a fact if I swapped out the safety, swapped out the trigger, I would like this rifle significantly more right out of the gate. Let's do some shooting with this. Let's do some drills with it. Let's throw some bullets down range, try out this new mag, and go from there. All right, we got this thing all slung up with our Faro Concept Slingster. We're gonna do some drills. We got a couple plates out here. We're gonna time it. We're gonna see how this trigger, the safety, their new mag works, see how flat the rifle shoots, if we have any issues, double feeds, that type of thing. Just see how it goes. We do already have about 250 rounds, 300 rounds out of this thing, but there's still time for anything to happen. So let's do it. I'll get the timer rock and rolling here, and we'll get shooting. Seven, I had one miss, 384, let's go again. Okay, 315, 6 shots. So right out of the gate, I'm noticing this thing kind of bounces. And I think that's just that bolt velocity. I've noticed H2 rifles have a little bit less bounce, but it does have a flash hider, it doesn't have a muzzle brake. So let's go again. I'm gonna do 6 rounds on the big target. And the safety is it's hard for me to, it's like you flip it down, but you feel like it's almost not all the way down because it's kind of mushy at the bottom. So you like flip it down and I'm finding myself like double checking that it's down, which puts my first shot at a 116. I've never had that sensation with my other safeties where I go to flip it down, even my mil-spec ones, I go to flip it down and I'm not 100% sure that it's all the way down. And I'm kind of finding myself wanting to change my grip too, because this is like getting right in the way of my trigger finger. But anyways. .172. Oh, that was 5. Oh, I messed that all up. All right. We need to go 6. I can't freaking count. All right, here we go. There we go, and killed the target. That was better time too. 6 shots, 177, .94 first shot, and we killed the target. Seems to run. That other mag didn't want to come out very well. Kind of weird. All right. Let's finish off this mag. We'll get to see the cadence. We'll get to see where the brass is going. Get to see if you can actually run this trigger, how fast you can run the trigger. I know with some of the other triggers, even my 2-stage Schmid, you can run the trigger really, really fast. So let's see how this guy does. .2, 0.19, 0.15, 0.16, 0.19, 0.15, 0.14, 0.13 is my fastest split, which is not terrible for a heavy trigger. I do think though, when you're pulling this thing, it's kind of pulling you, I don't know, like it's so heavy. I'm just bitching. I hate the trigger, I'm just bitching. All right, okay guys, we've talked about this. It's time to do the accuracy portion of this before we get into anything else. We want to do it while the barrel's still pretty fresh. Now I have gone ahead and shot this a little bit prior to make sure everything functioned and everything was working properly, so we could come out here and do this without any hiccups. So today we'll be shooting this DDM4V7 with Arken Optics EP5 5-25 at 100 yards using this Nozzler match grade ammo. This Nozzler ammo is 77 grain hollow point bow tails, which should be great for this rifle. These are supposed to be pretty accurate. They're cold hammer forged. I believe they're even chrome lined. So this is gonna be the best test for getting the best accuracy out of this with a decent scope on it. So something I wanna touch on, we briefly mentioned earlier, the trigger on this is not super awesome. So getting a good group is gonna be more of a challenge than usual. There's not really a breakover. So finding that sweet spot is gonna be more of a challenge than normal. So we're gonna do our best today, no excuses, and good groups. Something else I wanna mention before we get into this, we had somewhat of a failure this morning. I was going through this, oiling everything, greasing the trigger. Trigger went forward and hit the bolt drop. Now normally that's not too big of a deal. However, the bolt drop lever broke off. This is one of those things, I mean, we're not even in the torture test yet and we're already having breakages. To show you kind of what I'm talking about, this trigger right here went forward like this and hit the bolt catch, and that bolt drop lever broke off subsequently. That'll have to be addressed at a later point. All right, now this is my full mil-spec rifle. It's on a Palmetto State lower. Mil-spec trigger, all mil-spec parts. Nothing crazy here. I just wanted to show something for those guys that are DD loyalists. I wouldn't assume this is not gonna break off, but we'll find out. So see if it's a one-off. So this is all that happened this morning. The hammer slipped out of my grasp, just like that, went forward, impacted this, and broke off my bolt drop. I think I could do this all day. It probably wouldn't break off. I don't know if that's something inherent to Daniel Defense. Maybe I got a fluke part. Usually my luck is I get fluke parts. So we'll be reaching out to them and trying to get a replacement for that. But I wanted to include that in the review since this is all part of the process. So, all right guys, we got our Nozzler loaded up, got our target down there, got our GoPro set up. Let's put some holes in that target. Okay, looks like the last couple of those started to open up just a little bit as the barrel got warm. We will go ahead, take a look down range, see what we got. All right, we're down here at the target. I did 10 shots instead of 3 or 5. I wanted to see as the barrel got warmer, if things moved around a little bit. Looks like they did just a touch, but we also had some wind, so it was a little hard to be super consistent. But this is not bad. We've got 2 almost touching here, 2 about, I don't know, 3/8 of an inch apart. We've got 3 in the same hole right here, which is fantastic. And then we got some flyers. This was early on, I think maybe 3rd or 4th shot or something. And then these were the last 2 shots in the string. All in all, not bad. If you take this group out, that's probably a little over an inch, either from that group or this group. If you add this in with the flyers, I mean, this is probably a 2-inch group. It's not terrible. It's not super great. Like I said, we did have a little bit of wind, so, and the trigger is really bad. It's really, really bad. But I did my best to try to get these in here as accurately as possible. I mean, 3 in the same hole is great. So take it for what it's worth. That's our group. Oh, and this was our pre-group shooting to kind of get this thing close. The scope is not for this rifle. And we had 2 in the same hole here, and these 3 are almost touching. So it'll group. It'll shoot out to 600 accurately. But yeah, that's what we got. So what's the plan with it now? We've done a little shooting. We've talked about it. Now I'm going to give it to a couple of my buddies. They're going to take it. They're going to do their own analysis on it, free of anything I have to say. And then we will reconvene after they have shot some rounds down it, had a good time, maybe taking it to a match, whatever they want to do. We will go over it and see what their thoughts are, and we will have a kind of table talk, final thought section, and reconvene in a little while.
One eternity later.
Guys, I'm here with my buddy Jake and my buddy Wade. They're helping us out with this test. These guys have done their part. They're ready to get into it. So first off, DDM4V7. What do you guys think?
Right out of the gate, I love the barrel. Let's go with the pros. Always like CHF barrels, especially Daniel Defense. They do a fantastic job on the barrels. I dig their lockup system on the rail. It's lightweight, slender, it's solid. And with that, that is about as much good as I have to say for the price point of the weapon. Not a bad weapon.
What were your initial thoughts? You picked it up, looked over it.
For the $2,200 MSRP, I believe is where we're at in there, somewhere around.
There's somewhere between 1960 to 2200, depending on what accessories you want on it, what furniture, that type of thing.
I think for the price, there's a lot of competition that you can get more features and a bit more bang for your buck. I think for the price, you could do a little better.
Okay.
I would agree. Some things I do like, some things I don't like. Like Wade mentioned, it's lightweight, the barrel's solid, handguard solid. I did feel like the handguard got hot rather quickly. Even like, I mean, I ran some bill drills, I ran some doubles, ran some just like very, very basic stuff, kind of just to get a feel for it. And I felt like it was getting like borderline uncomfortably hot, even after, I don't know, 100, 150 rounds. Yeah. So there's, I guess that's a pro and a con with a thin, lightweight rail, which I prefer the feel of a rail like that, but is something to consider. Personally, I hate Daniel Defense's furniture.
It's terrible.
It doesn't.
Every one of the pieces that you touch, essentially.
Exactly. Like it's not the worst feeling in the world. It's not my preference, but just aesthetically, I hate the way it looks. To be completely honest.
Yeah, that tire tread pattern's kind of a little
the stock itself, not too bad. Again, looks-wise, not my favorite, but it doesn't feel bad. It kind of reminds me of like a CTR or I forget what the newest Magpul stock is, but it's got a similar shape.
Yeah, the one they came out for bag rest.
Yeah, exactly. It's got a similar shape, so like usage-wise, it's not bad. The vertical grip is pretty basic, and then the pistol grip itself, I don't care for the like attempted ergonomic stuff on it, but again, personal preference. The charging handle, ambi is nice, not the, doesn't feel like the most quality charging handle on the market, but it's not It's not bad. It's nice.
usable.
It's,
yeah.
and it's nice that it comes ambi as an option from them. The ambi safety, again, I like the fact that it is offered in an ambi setup. I don't like the 2 long levers. As a righty, I feel like that is interfering with my grip hand and my trigger finger specifically. And then again, personal preference, but the 90-degree throw, I like a short throw safety.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah, and I want to preface, guys, last time you saw this, it didn't have these sights on it. It doesn't come with any iron sights. These are my pros. I provided and put them on there. Yeah, I would agree with everything both you guys said. Another caveat to throw in that I talked about during my initial impressions is just the fit and finish. On something that costs as much as this, I feel like little things start to matter more than if you're buying like a $600 rifle or even just a $1,000 rifle. You know, a rifle $600 to $1,000 less than this, they don't matter quite as much, but little things start stacking up. So the fit and finish between where the handguard interfaces with the upper bothers me.
I was just going to point that out.
And there's little other things that just it's too much for the price that it costs. I know, Wade, you were kind of hit or miss on the grip. None of us cared for the vertical grip that much.
No.
And none of us cared for the stock that much. The rubberized does nothing for me. I would rather have a CTR or you know, any of the other SLS, SLK, any of those.
I don't necessarily hate the grip functionally.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel terrible.
The angle of it feels nice.
Yeah.
The angle's good. It's got this little finger cutout, which is all right. But I mean, if you're paying extra for the furniture, just give us something different that's better. I mean,
100%.
I rock an A2 on this guy, and I like a lot of people hate the A2. I've used it so much, I just it is what it is, and it would make no difference to me either way. Some things on it that I've talked about really disliking, and I know these guys would probably agree with me, is the trigger is the worst I have felt
It's bad.
in a gun.
It's really bad.
To date. And I know I brought this up earlier. It is, just to show you guys, so we're all sitting here. Still going. That was 9.2 pounds.
And it feels like 9.2 pounds when you're shooting it.
I've consistently got between 9 and 9.5 pounds on that trigger, and that is just not okay. I brought this guy out. This is my Mark 18 build. It's not quite done. You guys will see it on the channel a little bit later, but this is a $70 trigger. And I just want to show you guys here. This $70 trigger is a 2-stage. .8 pounds. I've consistently got between 2.5 and 3 pounds out of a $70 trigger. This trigger, there's no excuses for it. It's just bad.
No, especially in a $2,000 rifle. You know, a mil-spec style trigger, whatever, but it almost feels like there's something wrong with it. But it functionally is fine.
Functionally,
it's just
it works.
Extremely heavy pull.
And that's what I will say is functionally the rifle,
It worked.
I have had zero malfunctions with it.
Yeah.
Right out of the gate.
100%.
All, I think we're probably around the 860 mark or 880 mark. Zero malfunctions.
Yeah.
So for reliability, when you're talking about Daniel Defense, it does hold its own. All right, so you guys have both shot it. We got the footage. We'll go ahead. We'll go to your footage and see how your run went with the rifle.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back and Wade, we'll get into your footage.
Absolutely.
Touch and go, forgotten truth.
All right, so now that you guys have shot it, and we're back here talking about it, would you guys recommend this to somebody for their first rifle purchase? Yes or no, and why?
I'm going to say no. For this price point, you can get something with a lot more features, better trigger. I could say that over and over. Again, love the barrel. The lockup on the handguard's great, but everything else about this is a very basic AR. And when you're getting into that $2,000 price range, man, you have so many other options that are well below that. You can simply get a better weapon for your money.
And this applies to somebody that wants to maybe walk into a gun shop or order online just a rifle right out of the gate. This doesn't really apply to somebody building something.
Right.
Like this rifle here is completely built out of parts. There is nothing that I purchased assembled. I think any of us sitting here, we all have rifles of various types. You know, we have our cheap stuff, we have our expensive stuff, we have stuff we paid a lot of money for, stuff we paid very little money for, high value and low value things that we have experience with. So as far as background as to where we're coming from, none of us are really like, you know, bougie brand type of people that are going to go out of our way to buy something because it says
Rifle snobs.
this name or that name on it.
It's all relative.
It's all relative to what you want, what you're getting, what you're willing to pay for.
I think personally, it would not be my first recommendation. Like you said, if someone's just going into a gun store, most people are familiar with the Daniel Defense name. You are paying for some of the name. That's where some of that price is coming from. Like we all said, it was reliable. We did not have any issues with it, which is, you know, that counts for something for, especially if you're buying a complete rifle, you might not be as knowledgeable in the functionality. So getting something that will just run, there is something to be said for that. Again, though, for the price, I think you could do better. That said, if you want to invest into the Daniel Defense name, knowing that they've got the longevity, the performance in terms of, you know, reliability, and it is a well-made rifle. It's going to hold up. It's going to run.
Yeah, I mean, as far as somebody wanting to buy something as like a fighting rifle or their go-to rifle, it will do the job, and it will do the job very well. Just know that there is going to be certain things that you're going to want to change out on it. I mean, even a novice to it will probably go, man, I thought, you know, these triggers are supposed to be better, or the safety feels clunky, or whatever it may be. Maybe they like the furniture or not.
Right.
You just got to know, like, you're paying for this. This is what you're getting. So there's things like a lot of people when they buy Geisleys, the first thing they do is when they buy Daniel Defenses, the first thing you do is they swap out the trigger for a Geisley. It's really common. And then a lot of people swap out the stocks as well. So
yeah, that would be one thing. Like you said, there's kind of different variants with the furniture and stuff. I'm not super familiar on the way they set it up and the price points are. If there's like a bare bones model under 2,000 with just like super basic like A2 grip and stuff like that, that might be a little more intriguing because you could put that extra couple $100s into the furniture you actually want and maybe some control items, trigger, safety if you don't like their variant. But overall, I would say probably wouldn't recommend it for a first rifle. No.
Right.
Just at the price point.
And what I've seen so far is they don't really offer a budget class of rifle. The DDM4 is basically their version of that. They do offer ones that have like quad rails, this and that, but they're more money. This is essentially their more budget friendly version of their like staple rifles. So
when I think Daniel Defense, I think barrel, and they're fantastic Mark series rails, like the Mark 12, Mark 18 quad rails.
Yeah, this Mark 18 rail it's great. I mean, it's heavy and it's expensive, but every quad rail is heavy, and for a good one, they're usually expensive.
Yeah, it'll last you a lifetime too.
Yeah.
So I thought it was going to go much beyond that. Everything else on the rifle, to me, again, it's just very basic, and you're getting very little for how much you're spending. But like Jake said, if you're into that name and you want to invest into it, reliability.
Yeah, and it's, you know, there's
totally
something there's something to be said for that in the brand value and recognition, and like a parts build, for example. If you, for whatever reason, decide you want to sell that down the road, probably pretty much sits at its purchase value, where
they
something
do hold their value.
Where something you piece together, you're not going to get as much as the combined amount of the parts you spent typically.
Some of the brands that I would recommend, I usually don't make videos where I don't like a product, I don't try to at least recommend something. If you're watching this and you're looking at buying this and now you're on the fence, some of the other things that I would recommend looking into as well, the Arrow M4 E1 Pro, I believe, is ambidextrous. It's a really nice rifle. The Sons of Liberty Gunworks rifles, occasionally you will find them on sale for a very good price. And from everything I've seen and everything I heard, they make a high quality rifle. And they do offer monolithic uppers too, which is a benefit. And then the other one that I would highly recommend looking at is the American Defense, is it Machine Manufacturing? It's ADM.
ADS Manufacturing.
Manufacturing,
I
yeah.
believe.
That's their UIC rifle. That thing is fully ambidextrous. It's only a couple $100 more, $200-300 more than this DDM4V7, but it's a true ambidextrous lower, and they make high quality stuff as well. So,
and if we're going basic, like non-ambi, I would throw BCM into the mix.
100%.
yeah, they're about the same price point.
Yeah, and to me, I mean, I think they're a bit less, and you get more for your money, I think.
Yep.
Or at least the same for less money.
Yeah, I mean, if you're shopping around that $1,000 to $2,000 range, yeah, 100%.
A lot of options in that price range
Absolutely.
for sure.
Yep.
The market's flooded these days with ARs. I think we all know it's borderline saturated, so you kind of want to make your money work for you as much as it can. And when you throw something on the table at this price point, I mean, you can just simply do better. And that's not a knock to DD, it's just this price point's a little unreasonable for it.
Yeah. I kind of wondered too, when you first said you took it out, you're like, the trigger is heavy. It'll break in a little bit, but nope.
Nope.
No dice.
The safety broke in. I will say that. Originally, this had no like detent clicking. It was just mush. It was like
slop.
Mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Once again, thank you for watching. Always appreciate it. Hit that like, subscribe. Stay tuned. This Daniel Defense isn't going anywhere. We're about to do a full-fledged torture test on that, just like we did on the PSA and on the Bear Creek, and we're gonna see if it holds up the same. So stay tuned, stick around. You guys are gonna wanna see that. Thank you guys for putting in the time and effort.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for coming out here, sweating your balls off with me.
It's hot.
And I will catch you guys next time. This has been Independence Arms. Thank you for watching. I don't get dirt in it. We got dirt in it. That's fucked. This has turned into a Holliston torture test.